Good day. Today is Friday, March 4th, 2022. And this is the second video in a series that I'm making to address the inaccurate, outdated, crappy, and just plain bad information in regards to mortgages that's kind of swirling around out there on the internet today. In the last video, which I'm going to link in the description, the last video, we covered the bad information on the mortgage APR and bad information on 15-year loans. And in this one, we're going to cover information on paying points and the break-even point on loans. If you want to help me continue to get some accurate and unbiased and good information out there, if you could please forward this video to someone you know that could benefit from it, and like and subscribe so we can get that good information out there, because the bad information only harms consumers. Let's jump right into it. First of all, I put a link. You can Google this or search whatever search engine you use, but I put a link in the description to consumerfinance.gov. That's the website for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. When you have some time, if you like to, I want you to look up the Loan Originator Compensation Rule. I mentioned this in a couple other videos, but it's important, so it deserves mentioning again. So this Loan Originator Compensation Rule was enacted by the Bureau in 2013. This ruling prohibits us from making money on terms of the loan, like the interest rate and how much you're paying in fees. You could pay 15% interest rate or 1% interest rate. You could pay $20,000 in fees or no fees at all, and we get paid exactly the same. It doesn't matter. So when you have some time, you can go ahead and check that out. Just click on the link, or you can just type it in the search engine, CFPB Loan Originator Compensation Rule. Next, I'm going to jump into some calculations. And you can write this down on some paper, or pause the video, grab some paper, or grab a calculator. We're going to first start off with a $475,000 loan amount. And this is a scenario. Now, I ran the pricing on these scenarios last night, so this is actually real pricing. It might have changed a tad bit this morning, but it's pretty much spot on. So $475,000 loan amount, 30-year fixed, 4.125 interest rate. We're going to use 4.125 interest rate, and the fees on that are nothing. There's no lender's fees, no title, no escrow, no appraisal, or the appraisal gets paid for with the credit, no county recording fees, no third-party miscellaneous fees like MERS and credit report, flood certification. So a true no-fee loan at the 4.125. The payment, $2302.09, so about $2,300 for the payment. The interest paid over the life of the loan, $353,751, so almost $354,000. So $353,700 is the interest paid over the life of the loan. Next scenario we're going to get into, same loan amount we're going to use, but a different interest rate. So $475,000 loan amount, 30-year fixed, but this time we're going to use a 3.625 interest rate. We're going to compare the two. So a 3.625 interest rate, that's 0.5% lower than 4.125. The payment, $2166, so about $135 or so, $35 cheaper per month in the monthly payment. There's also a big difference in the closing costs. The closing costs total about $7,900, $7,900. So that's for including lender's fees. There's actually no lender's fees, but it's 1.25 of a point, 1.25 of a point, title, escrow, county recording fees, appraisal, the other third-party small fees like credit report, flood certification, MERS, and they're $7,900. The interest paid over the life of the loan, $304,847. So that's about a $48,000, almost $49,000 difference in interest. Now I want to point out the APR on each of these. The APR on the 4.125 interest rate is 4.125. In a previous video, the previous video that I have linked in the description, I talk about the APR in a little more detail, but the rate and the APR are the same. So this indicates there are no fees associated with that advertised rate, that 4.125. I've already told you it was no fees, but the APR also backs it up. 4.125 rate, 4.125 APR. For the 3.625 interest rate, the APR is 3.761. 3.761. The APR is higher than the advertised rate. That indicates there are fees associated with that rate. The higher the APR is above the advertised rate indicates more and more fees associated with that rate. In this case, I told you the fees were $7,900, and that's reflected in the higher in the APR of 3.761. So now that I've talked about those two scenarios, let's compare the differences. I mentioned that it's about a $49,000 difference in interest. So if you subtract the fees, the $7,900 in fees of the 3.625 rate, the net interest savings over the life of the loan, $41,000. So even though the 3.625 costs $7,900 in fees, because in large part because of the points, it still saves $41,000 over the life of the loan. Pretty cool. The 3-year savings is $7,000. The 3-year savings in interest is $7,000. So at 3 years, the savings of the 3.625 has almost paid for the $7,900 in fees. And at 4 years, the interest savings is $9,000. So at 4 years, the 3.625 has not only paid for the $7,900 in fees, but now you're ahead of the game. So you can see the lower interest over the life of the loan, the lower interest at 3 and 4 years, and the closing cost that you paid are paid for, or in other words, they break even in just under 4 years, which is pretty cool. Now, if you knew none of this and you only knew the rates and APRs, the APR, which I mentioned in the previous video that I have linked up, shows you at a glance that over the life of the loan, the 3.625 rate saves you more money. You see 3.625 rate with a 3.761 APR, and the other one is 4.125 with a 4.125 APR. The lower APR shows you that over the life of the loan, it pays to pay the points with the lower APR. It shows you that it saves you more money, and that's the other way the APR can be used for. The way one is to see if there's fees associated with the rate that's being advertised, and number two, you can compare one interest rate to another, not one lender to another, one interest rate to another. The APR showed you that, hey, it saves you more money. Now that we've gone over the figures, I'm going to scroll down to what we're addressing in this video. So I mentioned that that we're going to address the points. That's the first one. I got this from a gentleman who made this video. He's not in the mortgage industry, not a mortgage loan originator, doesn't do loans, but he mentioned that in his video that don't pay points. Points are not worth it. The lender makes more money. Obviously, that's bunk. I just shown you, I gave you the information. You have the link. You can go to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and see that no, we do not make any money. We cannot make any money, and there's no getting around it. This ruling is federal. This applies to every bank, every lender, every broker, every credit union out there. So that's bunk. And also you can see, yes, it does pay to pay points in many, if not most situations. Again, it all depends on your situation. There's some situations where it doesn't pay to pay points. That's why you have to do the calculations each time. But as you can see, yes, points can benefit you, and no, we don't make money off of that. The other point we were addressing in this video, this gentleman, a famous gentleman on his show, regularly mentions on his radio show and on the web that the break-even point, that's the point where the cost get paid for by the savings of the loan. Like I mentioned below, that $7,900 in fees of the 3.625 rate was paid for after a certain period of time. In this case, it was under 4 years. And the 4 year savings in interest was $9,000, which paid for the 7,900, and then you're profiting. He puts out that the break even needs to be 3 years or it's not worth doing. Well, obviously, you know, the liars can figure, but the figures don't lie. That's just math. And I've just shown you that no, the break even point is whatever it is relative to you. Um, they get this, people who mention that, because he's not the only one. It comes from this figure that's been around my industry for a while. I've been doing this for 24 years. And that is that loans are typically paid off or refinanced on average about every 5 years. And there's a lot of truth to that. I've looked at about 6,000, close to 6,000 credit reports. That's a lot of credit reports, my time doing this. And it's very common to look on a credit report and see one, two, and three refinances on someone's credit report. It's pretty common to see. So yeah, that figure is close to being accurate. I've heard 5 years, I've heard 5 to 7 years. Um, but in order to have a 5 year average, in that data set, there needs to be a low and a high. And that high being people who stay in their home for well over 5 years without selling, without refinancing. If you follow this 3 year guidance where it's not worth it if the break even is less, it's not 3 years or less, you're throwing a lot of money out the window. Let's take my situation that I gave you. If you're saving $2,000 a year in interest, you're saving $2,000 a year, and you're staying in there for 8 years, and the loan breaks even at 4 years, you've just saved $8,000. But what if you followed that crappy 3 year advice and you never did it? You just thrown all that money down the drain. There's also the payment savings. You know, that $135 a month payment savings adds up. So on these loans, just point this out really quick. You're either getting a payment savings, an interest savings, or both. And depending on what your goal is, what your needs are, what you want, you're going to either be going after a payment savings or an interest savings, or in a lot of cases, you get an interest savings along with that payment savings. But there are situations, depending on what kind of loan you're doing, where you won't get a payment savings, but you get an interest savings. So one or the other or both is what you're going to get on these loans. But clearly, that I've shown you in the example, it breaks even. There is no break even. If it breaks even in 5 years and you're going to stay in there 6 years, well, it's worth it for you. You know, it breaks even in 4 years and you're going to stay there 7 years. Obviously, it's worth it for you. It all depends on you. All right, so that's it for the numbers. And in closing, I want to mention, in addition to the link from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau where you can read about the loan originator compensation rule, I'm also putting a link to Freddie Mac's website. Freddie Mac has a wealth of information. They do a primary market survey of lenders. I think it's published weekly. I have to look again. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure it's weekly. And they get the information on rates and fees that lenders are charging consumers across the country. They've been doing this, I think, since the 70s, since 1971, 77, lenders participate in this primary market survey. You can see the average of what consumers are paying across the country, the fees and the interest rates. There's also a section in there that shows, in particular for last year, how much consumers saved. They have a nice piece on refinancing even, so you could see on average how much consumers saved from refinancing last year. They even break it down in different regions and different states, so you can see by state what individuals, what homeowners have saved. So go ahead and check that out. I'll link that in the video. And just remember, when you're getting this mortgage information on the internet. A lot of this information is put out there by individuals that are not in the mortgage industry. Again, I'm not coming down on them, but when you're not a subject matter expert in a particular area, you're gonna falter. You're gonna miss some. You're gonna miss some things, and in a lot of cases, miss a bunch of things. In the first video that I have linked in the description, I mentioned that I am a licensed real estate broker, but I don't give out real estate information. I stick to what I do. I've been doing mortgages for 24 years. The only reason I have a real estate broker's license is because I'm required to. But I leave the real estate advice to the real estate professionals, the real estate brokers and the real estate agents that are out there doing this 5, 6, 7 days a week, and they've been doing so for years. I don't practice real estate, I practice mortgages. So I only give out mortgage advice. And even within the course of the mortgage advice, I only give out mortgage advice on the areas where I have experience in, because it's a huge field. There's lots of things you could specialize in within the mortgage industry, and I only speak about the things that I have experience even within my industry. So I don't talk about the entire mortgage industry. I don't know why there's so many individuals that put out information as expert information, but they're not experts on that subject matter. It's very harmful to consumers, or it can be very harmful to consumers that don't know any better. I didn't start this series until what prompted me to was when I was looking at these videos in the past, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is bad information. But what prompted me to start this series is when I saw in the comments section people congratulating them, saying, oh, this is great information. Thank you for putting this video out. Great information. No, it's not great information. It's wrong information. And so I want to help correct that, and you could help correct that too by forwarding this video to someone who's interested in purchasing or refinancing, or just anyone you think that could benefit from the information. Also like and subscribe so we can get this good information out there and save you and other consumers lots of money. Thank you again for watching this video. Stay tuned. We have some more good videos coming out. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.